If you ask me for a tip in the drive-thru, the answer is always going to be no. Okay? Because we're in a freaking drive-thru. I'm not tipping in a drive-thru.
So now we're supposed to tip Chipotle employees? Man! Okay, so I'm on lunch break and I wanted to do a mobile pickup order. And it asked, do I want a tip? For a pickup order? As in I'm walking into the store and picking up the food? I'm trying to... where's the tip? What's the difference between if I were to just order it and y'all put it in a bag, you put it in a bag? So, tipping in the United States is out of effing control. Some stores tip. I said, fuck y'all. So I went to Jimmy John's. There's no tip there. No tips at Jimmy John's. And then Chipotle, they got a tip jar. Starbucks got a tip. McDonald's don't tip. This is...
Tipping culture is out of control in New York City, man. I just went to Bodega to get a small coffee, black, no sugar, right? I go over there, man. Habibi said, yo, tap over here, bro. I go up to the screen, I tap, and it says, would you like to tip? And I'm like, Habibi, tip for what? I've been getting this coffee for free my whole life, man. I've never had to tip before. You telling me that now I got to tip at the Bodega when I get a coffee? And don't get me wrong, the coffee's good. They even put the nice little, you know what I'm saying? If it's too hot, you know, it'll burn your fingers. But to be asking for a tip, man, at a bodega is crazy. I didn't think that tipping culture would get to the point where at bodegas you was being harassed for tips now. It's like everywhere you go, would you like to tip? No, I don't want to tip. I'm not sitting at a restaurant. I don't want to tip, man. I'm not taking a cab. I don't want to tip. Nobody's servicing me. I don't want to tip, man. I want to buy my coffee, my banana. It was a coffee and a banana. And I want to get the out of here. That's it. That's all I want. I don't want to tip nobody. I don't want to donate no money to nobody. I don't want to do none of that. I want to purchase what I want and walk out of here, man. I don't got it like that. I ain't trying to be tipping everywhere I go, man, for nothing. This is getting crazy, man. Am I the only one that feels like this, man? Because I know I can't be, man. Crazy.
Back in 2020, we made an appointment at this Catholic church here in North Las Vegas to talk about getting our daughter baptized. And the lady said multiple times, you'll need to tip the priest. Don't forget to tip the priest. She even sent us home with offering envelopes, but she never once said offering. She always said tip. So we asked what was customary, thinking maybe $50. And she goes, oh, 200 or more. I'm sorry, what? Like, is this a baptism or bottle service? It's crazy. The whole thing felt more like a transaction than a blessing. And yeah, our daughter still isn't baptized because honestly, the whole thing it just left a bad taste in my mouth. And the church has gotten so commercialized and it's all just gross.
Okay, so bill is $50, so let's add 20% tip.
20% on top of the 50.
Yeah, that's normal.
That's not normal. In Germany, we give 2 euros and they say Dankeschön.
Okay, well that's insulting, okay? They leave off tips here.
Well, maybe your country should start focusing on paying them a real salary and not let us pay for that, yeah?
This is not how it works.
Das ist Unverschämtheit. You know what? Ich gebe den 1,50 €.
Wait, $1.50?
Yeah.
For a $50 bill?
Yeah. I think that's appropriate.
That's, oh my God.
I don't agree with the American tipping culture. I think it's not my responsibility as a customer that the people working there get paid a fair amount of money, a fair wage. That should be the responsibility of the people running the places, like the restaurant owner. So why is it my responsibility to make sure that the waiter who serves me gets paid a fair amount of wage for his work? And then also what I don't understand about the tipping culture is, like, when it has to be 20%, why does it differ if I'm ordering a more expensive meal? So when I'm ordering a $100 meal, then 20% of that would be $20, comparing to when I'm ordering a $20 meal, then 20% of that would be $4. So why should I need to pay so much more money in tip just because I order with a more expensive meal, but the work for the waiter doesn't change? So why suddenly am I required to pay so much more? That also doesn't make sense to me. To summarize again, I did tip in the US because also you guys explained me in the comments section, do as the locals do. But to be honest, I don't really agree with that.
If I sit down in a restaurant, I'm tipping minimum 30 to 35%. However, if I'm physically driving to the location and picking up the food at the counter, it's always 0. I'm not trying to set a bad example for everyone else. We tip for good service, we tip for convenience, but the idea that we're gonna tip because we drove somewhere and someone hands us food over the counter is stupid.
If you don't tip on top of gratuity, you're a cheap person and you don't deserve to go out to eat. It's just that simple. Now, who in their right mind said that? Who is out here tipping on top of the gratuity? I've already paid for the food. I paid gratuity with no attitude. And then y'all want me to tip on top of the gratuity? Are you dumb?
Just a little friendly reminder, you are not at all required to tip, like, ever. It's actually pretty insane to me how entitled the service industry has become, expecting a tip from you whenever you buy something from them, thinking that they can get away with bad service or not giving you exactly what you want. And mind you, this is coming from somebody that's generally pretty patient and even tips well for maybe good to average service, but I have a couple of non-negotiables when it comes to service. If I barely see you at all, or you take enough time to where I think that you're wasting my time, then your tip goes down. If the restaurant charges some sort of junk fee or hidden fee that isn't explicitly shown on the menu, your tip goes down, or you're not getting a tip at all. I don't care. Now, of course, you should be treating your service workers with respect, but if you're not getting the minimum service required, you have the power to not give them a tip at all or to give them a minimum tip. You have the power as a consumer, don't forget that, and don't feel required to leave a tip.
I can't lie to y'all, whenever I'm in Canada, I'm like, you know what, tipping culture has gone a little crazy. Because why am I tipping the person that just said hi to me at the door? But when I'm in China, there's no tipping service. Like, it's not even an option on the machines. You do not tip, no matter the service, like, not even just restaurants, anything, you don't tip. But the way I want to tip so bad when I'm here, because this is the best service I've ever gotten. Whether I'm in a restaurant, whether I'm getting my hair done, nails done, clothing, whatever. Ow! Everyone is treating me like I'm the damn queen, and it's just not me. Like, anywhere we go, any restaurant, they're like so quick, so efficient. Their food is great. They're just making sure like service is top notch in all places, and they're not even getting tipped for it. Like, they're just giving good service just to give it, and that's what I love. That's what I want, and that's who I want to tip, but I can't. And they don't even have cash here. Like, it's literally all on the phone. So I literally cannot tip, but I want to so bad.
U.S. tipping culture is so out of line. I was just paying for a Christmas gift online that's going to be shipped to my dad. They asked if I wanted to add a tip to show support for the team. No, I am placing an order. I'm paying a price for your product. For you to ship it, I'm paying for shipping. I don't understand this culture around tipping that's gotten so insane. I understand the way the restaurant industry works in the US. That makes sense to me. I don't love it, but if you're not going to pay employees a fair wage, then we have to make up for that by paying extra in tipping. But some website, I'm sorry, pay your employees a fair wage. I shouldn't have to tip your employees. I just think it's crazy. Have you experienced this? It's the first time I've seen tipping on a website, but apparently it exists now.
I went shopping for my wedding dress like a week and a half ago, and I ended up finding my dress at the first store that I went to. And I'm not joking, when I went to go pay, they flipped their little iPad around and it asked for a tip.
A bridal shop asked for a tip is wild. See, that just put me on the side of tipping culture just gotten out of hand. Oh, and places like 7-Eleven, like, bro, I went over here and grabbed my own bag of chips. What you ask for a tip for? And you gas stations. I'm out here pumping my own gas, and I walk in and go get something to drink and come to the register to pay for my gas and drink, and you talking about letting me get a tip. Not. And a lot of you restaurants, if I call in my order and I'm coming to pick it up, I'm not giving you no tip. There should not be a tip for every purchase that we make in America, G. Like, y'all got issues. Now, when I do go out to eat, I normally tip more than what I'm supposed to, simply because whoever my server may be, I don't know what they may be going through financially. So I'm always looking to help people out, just because you just never know.
New rule. If I order standing up, I'm not tipping.
Honestly, not a bad thought, right? I mean, if you have to go up out of your way to go get a product or service, like, you shouldn't have to tip, right? At first glance, yeah, seems completely right. And then, no, not really, but let's go with the reasons why real quick. So with that being said, let's get in. Let's do it. Like, what if you're in a wheelchair? Do you always have to tip all of the time? Because that would just suck. In actuality, let's talk about it. So, like, if you're standing up, you're getting a service provided for you, but let's say, like, you're walking up to a bar, tip less than if you would be sitting at a table and the bartender, server, waitress, whatever, comes up to you, get the service provided for you directly in front of you. That seems fair, right? Tip less when you're doing half the work. That way you're kind of tipping each other. In addition to that, I've never really been a big fan of the whole 20% rule or the 18% rule when you're standing at a bar. I think you should tip based on the service. If you're sitting at a table, you'll have the service provided for you, maybe closer to 20-ish%. But that makes more sense in that scenario when you're sitting down and have the service provided for you. As a side note too, and I hope you all can understand on this one, I hate tipping on a service before it's even provided. Like Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash and all that. I love your services, I do. I use it every day. But I hate that I have to tip before I even get anything. I understand the point behind it as well, because you might not get your food if you don't tip ahead of time. But that should never happen in any scenario, regardless of the situation. Culture definitely has just become completely just unrecognizable at this point. It's everywhere. You can't even walk down the street without someone bumping into you with an iPad out saying, hey, would you like to tip 25, 30, or 99%? It's absolutely absurd. I want to hear your thoughts, opinions on this. Let me know in the comments, and as always, guys, follow me for more.
I'm not sure what the fuck just happened, but I went into a sandwich shop and I went up to the window, ordered the sandwich I wanted, which was a pre-built menu. It wasn't like I went down the line and you built the sandwich for me in front of me. I ordered and I got a drink and I went to pay for it, which I picked up at a different window. And I went to go pay and I pressed no on a tip and the transaction went through and she said, you didn't tip me. I said, I know. I know. And I was very kind, very polite. Right? She said, well, why not? And I said, well, I ordered a sandwich and I'm getting it to go. There was, I didn't feel like there was a tip needed. She goes, well, everybody tips us. And she goes, we're making your sandwich for you. And I said, isn't that what your hourly wage is for? And I guess I was like dumbfounded just a little bit. And I still feel like I'm in shock and speechless just a little bit. But I am all for tips where it's deserved. Bartenders, servers, waitresses, your hairstylist sometimes, and however that works and you're part of if it's built or you go to whatever. I am all for leaving a tip when it's a service job that you have given me a service for and an appropriate tip. But all I did was walk to the window, order, and take it with me. Why should I have been felt guilty to not have left a tip on an $8 sandwich that was on your menu? I don't know. I gotta get over that one before I drive away.
Tipping culture in America has gone completely off the rails, and I'm saying this as someone who relies heavily on tips to survive. If the iPad flips around and the options are starting at 25%, that's not a tip. That's taxation by guilt. Let me be absolutely clear. I am not blaming the workers. This is not their fault. This is about the system and how broken that's become. 20% tips, we are one of the only countries in the world doing this. And when American tourists go to Europe and try to tip over there, the locals literally say, don't. Don't ruin what we have here. In this country, we have prompts starting at 20%, 30%. I've even seen 35%. This is just for counter service. And while this tipping is starting to get shoved everywhere, haircuts, I've even seen self-checkout kiosk with a tip option at the end. Am I tipping myself? Workers like me are getting crushed. I play live music at bars, restaurants, events, and over the past few years, my tip bucket has substantially dried up. People started telling me, oh, I don't have any cash, it's all mobile now, so I got a sign with a QR code. Even that's dried up. I get like one Venmo tip every couple gigs now. People are just burnt out. They're tipping for coffee, takeout. Seems like just tipping for existing at this point. And eventually, I think they're just going to stop tipping for anything. So I need to know, what are you tipping these days? 20%? 15%? Have you stopped tipping altogether? And if you're someone who depends on tips, have you felt this drop off too? And again, I cannot stress this enough that I am not blaming the service industry workers. It is not their fault. It is the systems in place that we have.
So this might sting a little, and this is going to cause some controversy. But when I go out to eat, the tip that I leave you is based on the quality of your service, not the price of the food. I don't care if I'm getting a $10 burger or a $100 steak. I'm leaving you $10, maybe 20 if you're really good. If not, you're not even getting that.
I'm not going to tip you just because you turned the iPad around and I pushed the button, bro.
Yeah, tipping culture in the US is absolutely insane, and there is a million problems I have with that. But that's not what I want to talk about. In this whole tipping discourse, I think the biggest disconnect is between what tipping is supposed to be and what tipping actually is. What it's supposed to be is some kind of bonus for service worker. If they do a great job, they get something extra. But what it turned into, and a lot of people don't want to hear it, tipping in the US is a necessity for service worker. It is essentially their salary. Yes, there are nuances to it, I know that. But to solve this, I only really see one way, which is raise the federal minimum wage, align the service worker minimum wage with that new minimum wage, and then ban tipping. That's a pretty radical solution, but I don't see another way.
This take is going to make me sound 1,000 years old, but bars and restaurants are out of control. They're out of control. Hear me out. I walk into a bar last night. I'm in Boston, okay? Crowded, absolutely slammed. Walk over to the bar just to order a round of drinks. By a round, I mean 2 drinks. A Coors Light bottle and a Sun Cruiser can. They take my card, they swipe the bill. I get the bill back, it's $26. Okay, that's kind of crazy. So I inspect the bill. Upon further review, there's an automatic 20% tip included in your bar tab. I'm sorry, you have to provide service in order to get a tip. You did not even say hello when I approached the bar. I said hello. I asked you how you were. You just looked at me flatly and said, what do you want? Okay, so I order my drinks, and then you swipe my card and tack on a 20% tip for opening a bottle and cracking a can. And don't get me wrong, I've worked quite literally every position at a restaurant besides like on the line. So I get how tipping works. That's not tipping. Now you're just charging me a fee for having it staffed. No thank you.
I'm still struggling to get my head around tipping culture. I feel like even though tips are not mandatory, the energy you get when you don't tip, it feels very mandatory. I tried to put my foot down on one occasion. I went to get my toes done. The bill came up to $120. I paid with my cards. And then obviously, when you pay with your card, they have to print out the receipt and then you have to put how much tip you want to give. So I've signed it and I've scribbled the part where there's supposed to be tip, meaning that I don't want to give tip. So the woman looks at the receipt and she said, no tip? And I said, nah. And then she looked at me and asked again, she said, no tip? And I said, there's no tip on the paper, meaning there's no tip. And she said, no tip? At this point, I'm scared. Because are you asking me if I'm giving no tip? Or you're telling me that, are you sure you don't want to give a tip? The pressure was too much that I just said, you know what? I'll just give you $20. I said, oh, thank you. But at that point, don't thank me because you've bullied me into giving you the money, isn't it? I don't like disgrace. And you're not going to make me feel embarrassed because I didn't give you a tip. Even though I've already spent like $120 in your establishment, now you're making me feel bad because I don't want to add money on top. But anyways, I have just come to terms that that's the culture. I'm not in my land. That's how they do there. Don't disgrace yourself. Just add the money on top and just forget about it.
There's a conversation going on TikTok right now about tipping culture getting out of hand and tipping at establishments where you're not receiving full service or just interacting with an iPad and not interacting with a human to begin with. And as someone who made $6 an hour as an adult and relied on tips to survive, there is something I want to add here, and there is a question that you need to be asking at these types of establishments, like an actual question, okay? Baseline, if you are going out in the United States and receiving full service at a restaurant or bar, you need to be ready to tip. I know that's not the best system, but if you want to change that, go lobby your congressperson, not your fucking bartender, okay? But when you are going to an establishment where you're not receiving full service, or it's just this iPad or whatever, and you are thinking about giving someone a tip, like either you're way too nice or it's like the holidays and you want to tip your regular barista or something like that, you should just ask them straight up, are you receiving your tips? Does this establishment give you your tips? Because even though it is illegal, I'm not going to say many, but there are plenty of establishments that just steal those tips. And they tell the employees that they're using it for credit card fees, or they're using it to recover the fact that they pay them a little more or something like that. That is illegal. And you should report them to the Department of Labor for whatever state that this is happening in, okay? I have been to many places where I just ask them straight up, I'm thinking about giving them a tip. I ask them if they receive their tips. They say no. And then there is a mutual understanding that they are not about to receive a tip because I'm not about to give it away to the business, okay? I don't give two flying fucks about the business, okay? That tip was for them. And then I go report this business to the Department of Labor. These businesses have no problem lying to their employees about stuff like this, and going to an iPad where there's not even a face-to-face interaction makes this type of wage theft so much easier.
To the people that are always telling people stay home if you can't afford to tip somebody every single time you go out to eat, where y'all at? Because now the restaurants is empty and no one's getting tipped. This is what happens when you make consumers pay your workers a livable wage instead of paying your workers a livable wage. And the energy that y'all have for people that couldn't afford to tip every time or didn't, because tips should be off of gratitude, not extortion. So the solution was basically to pay people, more than $2 an hour, because what the hell is that?
In the industry for a really long time, tipping has got out of hand. The fact that you go to any place, coffee stores, general stores, literally any place that you're going to, and they're flipping a screen over towards you that says 20, 22, 25%, or 20, 25, 28%, or 20, 25, 30% is insanity. Like, I've made my living for a huge part of my life based off of the gratuities of other people. But it's people's option. Like, the fact that the systems that they put in front of you almost force you to pick one of those three. And then, if you don't pick one of those three, you have somebody sitting there staring at you like you did something wrong. It doesn't even give you an option to be like, okay, here's $1. Because I typically tip $1 for coffee. That seems appropriate in my opinion. But yeah, for it to, the coffee's already $8 and it's trying to get me for like $2.50 on a tip. That's crazy. Agree or disagree in the comments. The coffee looks great though.
Tipping culture is really out of hand. You now have to tip in churches. You tip when you go to buy your wedding dress. You tip at the drive-thrus. You tip when you go to a self-service kiosk. This is really out of hand, out of control. And tipping should be an option. It should not be a requirement. So you tip out of the goodness of your heart. You are not forced to do it. So what are your thoughts about this tipping culture in America that is out of control? I'd love to hear them. I'd love to read them. Leave them at the comments. Thank you for watching. Subscribe. I'll see you on the next video.